This is some weird kind of tequila rum mashup? Whose great idea was that? Hello and welcome to My Tiny Bottles, the project where I'm exploring my grandmother's legacy of miniature liquor bottles, one tiny bottle at a time. This is reveal number 16. It's time to pull some new bottles from Grandma's collection and see what I've got to work with. This is, of course, my favorite part of the project, maybe yours too. And so let's see what we've got today. It's a pretty bottle. It's Le Grand Passion liqueur. So if we're lucky, it'll be a passion fruit liqueur. I really like passion fruit. There we go. That'll work better. Marnier l'Apostole. So I don't know if it's like related to Grand Marnier. It is a product of France. It's got a government warning label on it, so that tells us something. Post 1989. Yeah, never heard of it. It's clear, it's glass and full, so could be very tasty. Who knows? See what the internet tells us. The internet knows most things, not all things, but most things. All right. Another glass one, I can tell by the feel. Hey, Canadian Club. We haven't had very many Canadian whiskeys in this collection, given that this collection was in Canada, where my grandmother lived. So one of the great things about old enough Canadian bottles is that they have a bottled in bond tack strip on the top that will tell you exactly when the whiskey in the bottle was made. This one, 1972. So Canadian Club, probably one of the best known Canadian whiskey brands. Really fun history there. I've actually been kind of hoping that one of these bottles would come up soon so I could start telling that story. I've had hints of it in some of the other bottles. So this is great. Hiram Walker and Sons, Walkerville, Canada, where I lived very close to for many years in my childhood, strangely enough. All right, this one's plastic. Cyclone. Oh, great, guys. More Bacardi. You may remember how I felt about the Bacardi O. Premium Bacardi Gold Rum infused with imported blue agave tequila and natural lime flavor. This is some weird kind of tequila rum mashup. Whose great idea was that? This is also labeled not for resale. Now, my Bacardi O had a not for resale, and that bottle tricked me because I did all this dating on it, and then I turned it over, or a friend of mine turned it over, and it had dates on the bottom. This one also has some numbers on the bottom, but they don't look like dates. So now I'm wondering if I was wrong when I had my great dating conspiracy, because this has two sequential numbers. But those numbers are 1028 and 1027, where the other one happened to have ones that looked like years. I think it was 2017 and 2018 or something. This is 1027 and 1028. So what if they weren't years at all? And I did all that for nothing. Well, how long can Cyclone have lasted, right? Not very long, since none of us have ever heard of it. So hopefully I will be able to narrow that down. Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. Grandma's collection never ceases to surprise. Oh, it's another bourbon. I would be a lot happier about it if it was not plastic, not 3/4 full. Jim Beam, not my favorite bourbon, but a classic American brand. Definitely one that it will be fun to tell the story of. So, 80s. I don't think I've ever encountered a plastic bottle from before the 80s or 90s. So, early 80s. It's only listed as 80 proof. And starting, I think it was in 1988, you were required to have your percent ABV there. So this will be an early 80s bottle. Pity it's not. Oh, no, it does say 40% alcohol by volume on the front. So never mind. Who knows? Yeah, it'll be fun. Good story. Jim Beam, great company. All right. I can feel it. It's glass. Like it. Glass is such a good sign. Lot 40, another Canadian whiskey. So we're in a little Canadian selection here. So today, this is actually made at the Hiram Walker Distilling Factory in Windsor, Ontario, in Walkerville, where this Canadian Club is labeled as having been made. But I think that the brand kind of moved around for a while. So this one was made in Corbyville, Ontario, Canada. Something else, Corby Distilleries. I talked about Corby Distilleries. Corby Wine and Spirits, right? Yeah, so that came up in another bottle. So this is listed as a Canadian, single copper pot still Canadian whiskey. Made with malted rye. So this is going to be really interesting. So in the US, we sort of have two major styles of whiskey, right? We have bourbon whiskey and we have rye whiskey. And Canada has their own unique way of classifying whiskey and how whiskeys are made there. And so I grew up in Canada calling all Canadian whiskey rye, but not all of it is rye or has rye. But Lot 40, as I know it today, is a rye whiskey from Canada. And it's mostly or 100% rye whiskey. This definitely looks like an older bottle. I think I have a Lot 40 maybe somewhere, but this looks like an older bottle. The terminology being used on it is quite different. So I'll be really curious to try to figure out exactly what is in here. But I love rye, so I'm super excited to taste this one. So that was a pretty good selection. A couple of puzzles, a little bit of plastic, and some exciting Canadian whiskey. So these will be fun to research. If you want to find out what I discover about them, well, first off, if you know anything about them, let me know. Tell me especially for these mystery ones, if you've ever heard of them before. But when I get around to telling their stories, you can find them right here at My Tiny Bottles. You can watch on YouTube. You can listen on your favorite podcast app. You can read them all at mytinybottles.com. And of course, you can follow me on social media at My Tiny Bottles or Tammy Coxon on Blue Sky. Look forward to researching these. Give a like, give a subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll be back soon. Cheers.